Welcome, everyone, to CDO's Magazine series of one-on-one interviews with CDOs, data leaders, and key influencers. I'm your host, Robert Lutton, Vice President, Sandhill Consultants, and I'm coming to you today from Toronto, Canada, working with the CDO Magazine. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Karthik Ravindran, who is the General Manager of Enterprise Data at Microsoft. Welcome, Karthik.
Thank you, Robert. It's great to be here.
I'm going to bring up another one of your articles where you talk about the practicing a culture of progression over perfection. Can you, share in your wonderful way, maybe an example of how you've seen how this has impacted the culture which you talked about positively, and how it's impacted the governance practices and outcomes at Microsoft?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I'll give it to you from sort of like two angles. One angle is around applying progression over perfection and navigating the organizational change management. And the other one will be progression over perfection and actual applied sort of like data value context, right?
Yeah.
I'll take the first one. So the first one is like the change management that we had to drive across the enterprise of Microsoft was massive. Like when we first started talking about the data office that I was tasked to go build out, it's like, as I shared with you, the initial reaction from across the enterprise was like, here we go, another centralized initiative. My starting point, I like to talk to it as the 20-60-20 starting point, where 20% of my stakeholders were like, we really, really need this because we are struggling to figure out how to connect data across the company. Our requirements have now evolved beyond operating just with our data. We need to operate with company-wide data, and we need help figuring out how to go do that well. So that's 20% of the stakeholders were really starting to think forward in terms of their use cases, evolving their use cases to stitching and using data and insights from across functional areas in the company versus just their domains. And these were the folks who were really hungry to get going. 60% of my stakeholders are on the fence. They were like, we've seen this movie before. Every time it's a centralized stuff, and then it just doesn't work for the agility of our business needs. And then eventually we end up doing our own things. And what's going to be new this time? Go prove something. And then if it works, we'll be happy to jump ship and join.
Right.
And the last 20% was like, just leave us alone. It's like, you can come up with whatever you want. It's like, we're not getting on this boat. It's like,
I'm not going to change. I'm not going to change. Yeah.
So the first application of progression for perfection, like if I sat and waited to say I'm going to get 100% buy-in before I got rolling, it's like we would still not have started, right? So my take on this was very simple. It's like I'm going to pick a true positive partner who's ready to get running, and ideally I'm going to pick a partner with whom we can build a product, a data product, or a set of data services of value that can then be attractive to broader teams across the ecosystem, which we can then use to demonstrate value in a broad context that will enable those other teams to see the value and want to be a part of the journey. So the first step of progression over perfection is identifying like who is that first stakeholder, what's the first use case that they're going to go after. And we ended up working with our marketing organization who had some really interesting use cases around connecting customer data across the company to evolve their marketing campaigns to be highly personalized omni-channel customer communications, which they were not able to do before because of the highly siloed state of the data estates, and which also could not be done with just the marketing data. So we worked closely with our marketing stakeholder to build the first version of a connected customer data product, which we applied in the marketing scenarios, generated and demonstrated value, and the customer data product ended up becoming very attractive to broader functions like sales and finance and operations, all of whom were trying to solve the same problem, which then became the magnet to start attracting more functions and teams into the nucleus and become a part of the overall ecosystem. Right. Customer is one example. From that, we iterated, we evolved to the employee domain, then we evolved to the ESG domain, all of our sustainability analytics and data capture and reporting, and several domains, including manufacturing, supply chain, finance, legal, you name it. It was just an iterative journey by which we navigated that. But starting with that first starting point and building something of value that more folks could resonate with, showing people that this can be accomplished, demonstrating the champion of enablement culture through delivering this kind of value together, with a partner team. All of these were the factors that helped us to sort of like grow that confidence in the broader organization. And today we are in what I would say is an 85-15, maybe even a 90-10 state, where the majority of the teams are operating in the model that we've been talking about over the course of this conversation. And there's still some teams who still do their own thing, but for good reason, because these things are so specialized and so niche that they're probably going to be more efficient managing their own operations versus trying to integrate into something that's more connected and enterprise-wide. Right. So that's the example of progression over perfection on the what you call on the applied
change management side. Yeah.
Then there's progression over perfection in terms of applied data, which is the data products that teams have to go build, the value outcomes that teams have to go drive. It's very easy to say, like, I'm going to go boil ocean and build the perfect data product, the perfect sort of like value outcome. And that's seldom the case in the real world. Like even the connected customer data product that I explained to you in the first example, if I have to take it forward in this context, it wasn't like the first product connected all of the customer data across Microsoft. That would have taken us years to go do. We started really small. We started with the most pressing problem, which is how do we get clean golden records of truth for what one would categorize as customer master data? Information like the address, the contact information, email, phone number, customer name, location.
Yeah.
Like we have 50 plus systems across the company that were spewing out what is just account level data, right? And then all of those systems would claim that they have great quality, like in their own little silos. And they would be right in claiming that because the purposes for which they were built, the very granular purposes for which they were built, were being well served by those systems. But the first time when we took these 50 plus systems and tried to connect them and bring them together, our match rate was like less than 5%.
Wow.
So recognizing that, let's first get started with what is the most basic information about customers, contact information and account information, and build a connected data product, a single golden record of truth, for that data, which by itself can be of immense value to teams across the company. And then incrementally iterating to add on engagement signals, to add on transactional data, and then growing the richness of the data product. And then as we took each spin of the wheel, also making sure that those evolutions were being connected to applied business scenarios, whether in marketing, whether in sales, whether in finance, to actually create the value outcomes which could be demonstrated along with those additions, right? So taking a very incremental progression over perfection approach to how you evolve your data products, to how you evolve your business OKRs that you're trying to impact with those data products, and recognizing that it's, again, going to be a journey of learning, where sometimes you also have to be open to the fact that all learning is good learning, right? So eliminating this word failure from the dictionary and looking at it as like, even though sometimes things don't go the way you hope they would, recognizing that in many ways that's a learning which is going to help you move 5x faster when you go on to the next set of investments. So that approach, of really adopting this practice of saying like, hey, we're not going to know all the answers. We are not going to be perfect, and we have to get comfortable with the unknowns. And the only way to figure out all of these things is by doing. We're not going to figure these things out by sitting and trying to come up with a perfect architecture or the nirvana state solution on day one. We just have to get comfortable with putting water through the pipes, learning by doing and adapting on the go, right? And applying that practice and how you approach your data investments, like once you've gotten past the change management and the cultural alignments and everything else, is going to be as important. Yeah.
As Nike says, just do it. But the incremental approach is definitely key to this.
Yeah.
So just as we come up to the end towards the end of this interview, I got two more questions for you. One is, and this comes back to a technology aside question as well. But in your opinion, what are the key considerations and challenges in navigating technology choices for data governance, especially in ensuring a usability for an enterprise-wide business functions and users? What do you see as the kind of considerations that organizations should consider, and some of the challenges?
Yeah, fantastic question. So I think I would offer three considerations. The first consideration would be usability, which is ensuring that you understand your personas well and recognize and appreciate the complementary nature of the personas, which is going to include a whole spectrum of business users, operational users, very specific data functions that go beyond the more generally known data scientists and engineers and analysts, to also include data stewards, data product owners, data officers, who need to have a look at the overall sort of data estate and manage health controls around the data estate. So recognizing the diversity and the complementary roles of your personas who have to come together to make data work for your organization, and then ensuring that you're thinking through the experiences that you're delivering your collective solution as catering to the needs of those personas is going to be, I would say, one of the top considerations.
Right.
Because those role-tailored experiences, like you can put the best tech out there, but if it's not directly adaptable to the users and their needs, the adoption is likely going to fall apart. The second huge opportunity, I think, is what the entire world is talking about right now, which is AI, right? And I truly believe that AI has some of the most pronounced applications in the space of data governance and data management. Like, imagine a world where natural language could be the language of data discovery, understanding, and data management. I don't think that world is very far away into the future, where people can literally communicate in the contexts and the terms and the concepts that they're used to running their day-to-day businesses, not just their overall enterprise, but day-to-day business functions within the enterprise. Imagine being able to apply that rich context in a way such that it can be translated into actions that then help better data discovery experiences, better data understanding experiences, as well as better data management experiences. Right? Imagine being able to describe the data quality requirements of a piece of data or a data set in plain natural language, which can include the semantics of the domain and the context of the domain, and then having the system be able to automatically put in place the data quality routines and checks that are needed to operationalize that at scale, right? So there's just phenomenal opportunities, I think, for AI to really bring to life this notion of natural language as the language of data governance. And I would strongly urge the community to, especially when assessing technology for data governance, to get a sense of kind of like where is the solution that they're exploring headed, or the solutions that they're exploring headed in terms of enabling this kind of democratization through natural language. And I'll be the first to admit that there's probably no vendor, Microsoft included, who can claim that they've got it all.
Karthik, I was going, man, generative AI. If we can get generative AI to do what you just said, we'd be laughing, right? I'm going, yeah, you can tell it in natural language. What you're looking for, the data quality rules, the data management, the data governance, and just go ahead and do it. But I do believe that we're not that far away from that.
Yeah,
I do believe that we're
from it. It's a huge opportunity. And then the third dimension which I would offer is to really think hard about a cloud first, but a hybrid capable consideration. And what I mean by this is the scale at which we have to manage and govern and process data in this day and age, especially in the era of AI, it's a very massive scale. It's not the same scales at which we operated data, I would say, even 10 years ago. So really appreciating and recognizing, instead of asking the why cloud question, I would encourage leaders to really ask the why not cloud question, which is there are several workloads, whether it's master data management, data quality management, data health computation across an enterprise-wide data estate, which are the foundations on which you build all of your AI and analytics and your other data products that are going to generate value for your business. But if you don't have these fundamentals right, you really can't get to that true north. But these fundamentals also require a certain scale of compute and storage and processing horsepower, which is going to be a huge advantage to sort of like leverage and apply the cloud for. So the cloud first mentality and being able to embrace that, while also recognizing that the cloud first approach needs to be hybrid capable. And what I mean by that is, by no means am I suggesting that organizations have to lift and shift their entire on-prem data estate into the cloud. That's not practical. I mean, you have to start where you're at. The meeting point needs to be where your current data exists. And then over time, of course, you discover opportunities to synergize and accomplish greater efficiencies. But your starting point for most enterprises is going to be a hybrid estate, which is going to include multiple clouds, which is going to include private clouds, which is going to include on-premise systems, and the entire gamut. But having an on-premise estate doesn't mean that you cannot figure out a way to integrate with the cloud and get the best of both worlds, where you can get started with what you have, but you can also start applying the cloud capabilities in meaningful ways, even if your data is situated on-premise. This could be through virtualization mechanisms. They could be through highly efficient one-copy mechanisms. There's the variety of architectural patterns as well as technology advances that now make it possible to get started with your data wherever it is, but to still leverage the benefits like the open standards that the cloud tech is based on, benefits like the high-scale compute power that only the cloud can offer you. Right. So not getting overwhelmed with an on-premise state and thinking that the only way to get started is to first do a full-on cloud migration before you can move. Not holding too tight and trying to assess every technology through the lens of saying, like, can this technology work with my on-premise niche system here? Because sometimes you lose sight of the bigger opportunities and benefits when you focus so much on trying to check one box off of your requirements list, where there's another solution, a better solution where you could still start with your on-prem system, but bridge it into the cloud and activate all of the goodness of the cloud on top of it. So really thinking through that consideration is going to be very, very important, because once you get that foundation right, all of the first two things that I spoke to you about will naturally sort of light up on top of it. Like, for instance, activating AI at scale against a large scale and constantly growing enterprise data estate. That's not an undertaking that I would recommend anyone try to take on their on-premise systems. And evolving the experiences and delivering the experiences through modalities and front ends that users are also used to sort of using on a day-to-day basis. That is also something which the cloud is highly optimized for as a delivery sort of like vehicle and mechanism. Right. So I would say that these three things, usability, and then the real focus on sort of like making sure that you're starting with a cloud first mindset, is very, very important. These two things bridge, and then right in the middle, you've got this notion of, great, now how does AI stitch all of this together and really elevate the experience into natural language, business concept centric, anchored sort of like possibilities.
So I've got one more question, and believe it or not, it was on AI.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make this a broader question because you are from Microsoft, right? And Microsoft is in the stack of every organization out there, right? From your opinion, how do you see, as we enter in, really to the age of AI, how do you see this as an accelerator for responsible data value creation? And what role do you see Microsoft's solutions playing into this? And be broad, it's the last question. I want to just make sure you have the chance to talk about that.
That's fantastic. Look, I think there's a lot that's been written and said about all of Microsoft's innovation on the applied AI at the edge sort of like spectrums, right? So there's tons and tons of innovation happening through our generative AI and Copilot capabilities, whether it's in Microsoft 365, whether it's in our Dynamics Business Solutions. Almost every product, every sort of brand that Microsoft ships from a user-facing product has AI being infused into it for good reasons. And there's a lot said and spoken about it, right? So what I would do instead is touch on a couple of areas that are not that spoken about, which are crucial and which addresses your question of like, hey, what is the importance of data governance, data management, enterprise data practices in the age of AI? And I would broadly speak to it in two vectors. One is what we could refer to as, I would say, data governance for AI, and the other, which we could refer to as AI for data governance. Mm-hmm. And data governance, by the way, also includes data management as a core sort of like enhancement. Right? So if we start with data governance or data management for AI, it's a very simple story point, right? Which is, at the end of the day, any organization's AI is only going to be as good as the organization's data, right? So getting good data in place is going to make your AI step function better. And while there are machine learning algorithms and complex sort of AI systems that can claim that they can take data in any shape and form and work their way through it and sort of like make it better, the reality is, think about the amount of compute efficiencies, processing sort of like efficiencies that your AI systems could gain if every AI system did not have to deal with poor data. And instead of data could be shaped through good data management practices to a state where the AI system can get to doing what it really should be doing on the application side, which is creating value, right? So the practices around master data management, data quality management, data health controls, data security compliance practices, risk management, all of these are such fundamental capabilities, right? Where really getting in place a good set of practices that are scaled through intelligent application of technology can help an organization make that data ready for the applied aspects of AI. The second side of the coin is what you can speak to as AI for data governance or data management. And we touched on some of this in the earlier topics, which is, I personally think that one of the biggest application opportunities for AI right now is in the sphere of data management. Like trying to tackle something like master data management at the scale of big data estates, trying to tackle data quality management at the scale of the constantly exploding and growing physical data estates, not just structured, but across structured, unstructured information, semi-structured information, right? You name it. It's like the scale at which the data management practices need to operate against evolving data estates has grown seismically. And trying to tackle that through just human-based workflows and processes is going to be extremely difficult to do. So the notion of sort of being able to apply AI, in really innovative ways to scale these data management workloads, which in turn can then result in better data for applied AI, is another huge complementary opportunity. Now, across both these spectrums, the key point I'll also land is Microsoft strongly believes, and I personally strongly believe, in the notion of what you could, in very layman terms, describe as human-in-the-loop AI. And that is really, really important because AI...
Can you rephrase that? You said human what?
Human in the loop.
In the loop.
Yeah, human in the loop AI, right? So what this means is the AI virtual cycle is a loop, right? Which is, it is not meant to replace the human. I don't believe it can replace the human, especially in these contexts. But it can simply elevate the human to focus on the more higher order semantic and contextual sort of like knowledge work that a human is best positioned to do. Some of the deep business context, the semantic context around the data estate of an enterprise exists in that human expertise. Imagine how powerful it could be if that human expertise could be harvested and fed into the AI models, through a reinforcement loop, where the human plays a critical role of stewardship, feeding in the contexts, correcting the AI system when it's getting certain sort of things not as accurately as it could. But every one of those inputs translating into signals that keeps making the AI model better over a period of time, so that the human can truly elevate to focus on what is truly that IP, which can be applied at a manageable scale, as opposed to needing to sort of be worried about every single data file and database table and column and row of data, which is going to become impossible for humans to process at that scale, especially at the scale at which data is growing. So the human in the loop concept is super crucial, right? Whether you're a data consumer, whether you're a data steward, whether you're an applied data scientist or a data analyst or a data engineer, as you go about your day-to-day work, how can AI make you more productive? How can your signals help AI become more efficient to make you more productive, right? And this starts right from the left with the data steward, who's accountable for curating a data estate and making it easy to discover, understand, and responsibly usable. It transcends all the way to the applied technical functions like engineers and analysts and data scientists, who can both contribute to and benefit from the outputs of AI in building better, I would say, like assets and data products, which then transcend all the way to the data consumers and the citizens who have to consume those applications and products. And even at that edge, think about the fact that many times those business users have more understanding of your business and your domains than what any one of the previous functions probably do. So imagine being able to activate a loop where those consumers, as they're consuming and using the data, can provide input signals, either in the form of feedback, either in the form of data corrections. And every one of those inputs are now fed back to make the AI model richer and sort of reinforce that as learning, which can make the overall sort of like ecosystem thrive. Right. So this opportunity for data governance for AI, AI for data management, combined with the human in the loop of AI is, I think, an amazing virtuous cycle for us to really spearhead as an industry and bring to life.
Well, on that, Karthik, we definitely covered a lot. And on behalf of CDO Magazine, we appreciate the extraordinary knowledge that you've imparted, the expertise that you've provided, the time that you've given us. I certainly hope we'll get a chance to come back and have you share your knowledge again, because I do believe it was extremely beneficial to our listeners, especially at this moment in time, about how we can harness not only data governance, but also artificial intelligence for the better of organizations and the world in general.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Robert. This is a fantastic conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Me too. The time just flew by. So for our listeners, please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews. Thank you.